Hello friends. Imagine a person whose soul is a storm and a sanctuary at the same time. Meet the Scorpio born in the year of the goat, a magnetic enigma wrapped in velvet armor. This is someone who will disarm you with depth, surprise you with softness, and then challenge you with an intensity you didn't know you needed. Let's unravel this fascinating combination layer by layer. Love, marriage, sex, friendship, business, their darker shades, and ultimately, what drives them through life. Love, a dangerous game of depth. Falling in love with a Scorpio born in the year of the goat is not just a romance. It's a full-bodied emotional experience, a plunge into warm waters that can soothe or scorch, depending on how you swim. This kind of love doesn't come with a manual. It's intuitive, raw, unpredictable, and deeply spiritual. It's a connection that doesn't settle for surface-level attraction or convenience. With them, love has to mean something, every touch, every glance, every silence. This person doesn't do casual. To them, casual love is counterfeit. Their soul craves something with roots, tangled, complex, and deeply planted. They want to be understood without needing to explain. They want you to see the parts they don't show anyone. And in return, they'll do the same, if you prove you're worthy. There's a deliberate pace to how they love. They might seem guarded at first, reading you like a mystery novel they've picked up 1,000 times but still haven't decided if it's worth finishing. But if you pass the tests, the silences, the questions that seem innocent but aren't, the emotional X-rays they throw your way, then you'll find a version of love you didn't know existed. Not loud, not showy, but unshakable. The allure of emotional depth. Why are Scorpio goats so magnetic? Because they live in the emotional deep end. While others flirt with love like it's a dance, they stare it down like a mirror. They want to know who you are behind your routines, your habits, your defenses. They want your fears, your childhood secrets, your unspoken desires. And they're willing to give the same in return, but only after trust has been earned like currency. They often attract lovers who are emotionally lost or seeking transformation. Why? Because people sense their depth. They can feel how much more is hiding beneath the surface. It's not uncommon for someone to fall in love with a Scorpio goat without even understanding why, only to realize later that they were drawn to the emotional gravity they carry. This intensity can be overwhelming. For partners who prefer lighthearted relationships or emotional independence, the Scorpio goat can seem too much. But for those who are ready to be seen, truly seen, this is the kind of love that rewires your entire emotional DNA. You don't walk away from it unchanged. The push-pull of vulnerability and control. Now here's the paradox. As much as they crave deep emotional bonds, Scorpio goats are terrified of vulnerability. Love is their most cherished goal and their greatest risk. So what happens? They oscillate. One moment they'll pull you close, whisper something so personal it feels like a confession. Then the next day they might retreat behind walls so high you wonder if you imagined the intimacy. This push-pull dynamic isn't manipulation. It's self-protection. Scorpio energy wants power over emotional circumstances. Goat energy wants harmony and peace. Together, these forces create a lover who opens slowly but with intense beauty. They're waiting to see if you're consistent, emotionally resilient, and safe. Expect them to test you, not out of cruelty, but out of caution. They need to know you won't run when things get intense. That you won't judge them when they reveal their wounds. If you pass those tests, they'll give you more of themselves than you thought anyone ever could. But if you fail, you'll never know just how much you lost. Loyalty, possessiveness, and the fear of loss. Loving a Scorpio goat means entering a sacred pact. They don't just want loyalty, they demand it. Not out loud, necessarily, but in every unspoken rule of the relationship. In their world, loyalty is shown in attention, in presence, in how you speak about them when they're not around. They are always listening, always sensing. If your energy shifts, they'll feel it before you do. They're not jealous in the petty way, but in the soul-bound, ancient way. To them, love is not shared. They don't want your affection diluted, your attention split. This can sometimes come off as possessiveness, but at its core, it's the fear of emotional betrayal. They've likely been hurt before, and when they love, they love. Losing that kind of bond is not just sad for them, it's devastating. And if they suspect you're slipping, they won't cause a scene. They'll pull away, quietly, deeply. They'll begin the slow retreat into emotional isolation, and by the time you notice they're gone, you'll realize they were fading long before you asked them if everything was okay. The rare magic of being chosen. But let's say you do win them over. You do the work, break through their walls, prove yourself consistent, emotionally open, and real. What then? Then you get the rarest form of love on this planet. They'll love you with their entire being, mind, body, and soul. They'll defend you like family, support you like a life coach, and nurture you like a healer. You'll be the person they choose every day, not because it's easy, but because they believe in you. Because they see who you are when the world doesn't. This love isn't about flowers on Valentine's Day or Insta-worthy date nights. It's in the way they notice your smallest moods. The way they prepare your favorite meal without asking. The way they stand next to you during your breakdowns, not asking you to be strong, just asking you to let them be there. To be chosen by a Scorpio-Goat is to be chosen completely. It is to be seen, deeply, and loved anyway. And once that bond is sealed, it doesn't break. Not by time, not by distance, not by life's storms. They may be slow to open their hearts, but once they do, the love that flows from it is like an underground spring, quiet, powerful, and eternal. Marriage, a fortress built on loyalty. To a Scorpio-Goat, marriage is not the next logical step in a timeline. It's not a goal, a prize, or a box to check. It's an epic, a sacred contract, a spiritual alliance crafted with immense care. This union is considered holy ground, something to be approached with reverence, self-awareness, and emotional maturity. That's why they wait, they question, they watch, they test. Not because they're unsure of love, but because they understand the weight of a lifelong bond. They don't idealize marriage the way some do. In fact, their view of it can be surprisingly sober. Marriage is hard work, an emotional responsibility, and a test of character. The Scorpio in them fears betrayal more than loneliness, while the Goat despises instability. So when a Scorpio-Goat finally says, yes, what they're really saying is, I've thought about this from every angle, and I still choose you. That's not romance. That's devotion on a cellular level. The ritual of choosing a life partner. For the Scorpio-Goat, choosing a life partner is not impulsive, it's ritualistic. This process can take years, not because they're afraid of love, but because they're measuring it. Testing it. Watching how you behave when no one's looking. They'll pay attention to how you react under stress, how you treat strangers, how you handle silence. Every detail matters. They want a partner who isn't just compatible, but aligned. Someone who understands the value of emotional honesty, consistency, and shared values. Someone who doesn't just want to be loved, but knows how to love, intentionally, fiercely, and with patience. And even when things seem perfect, they may wait a little longer. Not because they doubt you, but because they need to know they won't lose themselves in the relationship. For the Scorpio-Goat, marriage must be an equal merging, not one partner swallowing the other, or erasing their identity. It's an emotional ecosystem, and they'll take their time ensuring it's safe, balanced, and built to last. The weight and beauty of devotion. When they finally marry, Scorpio-Goats don't go halfway. They become invested, not just emotionally but energetically. They'll remember the small details, the rituals that matter to you, the subtext behind your silences. They'll learn your fears, honor your dreams, and build entire systems of care around your needs. Their devotion shows up in practical magic, refilling your coffee exactly the way you like it, predicting your moods before you speak, standing silently next to you when words would only bruise. Marriage for them is about presence. About showing up, especially when it's inconvenient. Especially when it hurts. They're not flashy lovers, but they're the ones who will never let you feel alone in a room full of people. They won't write poems on Instagram, but they'll sit through a hospital night holding your hand without saying a word. That's their poetry. Loyalty, written in action. Love, demonstrated in patience. Sacred privacy and fierce protection. Once married, Scorpio-Goats become guardians, not just of their home, but of the emotional space they've built with their partner. They see marriage as a sacred boundary, a private kingdom where outsiders do not belong unless explicitly invited. Your relationship with them will always feel exclusive, even in a crowded room. They will defend their partner with a quiet but ruthless loyalty. If someone disrespects you, they won't always lash out immediately, but trust that they've noted it, filed it, and will never forget it. They don't just protect you, they protect the idea of you. Your reputation, your emotions, your dignity. And this sacred privacy extends to conflict resolution, too. Scorpio goats don't air their dirty laundry. If there's an issue, it gets discussed behind closed doors, often late at night when the world is quiet and emotions can be safely unwrapped. Expect a level of discretion and emotional intelligence that turns every disagreement into an opportunity for deeper understanding, unless you lie. Then, all bets are off. Emotional X-rays and the myth of passivity. One of the greatest misunderstandings about Scorpio goats in marriage is mistaking their calm for indifference. They're not loud lovers. They don't need to dominate. But make no mistake, they are constantly observing. They can feel the shift in your voice, the flicker in your eye, the tension in your posture. They miss nothing. This heightened emotional awareness can feel like mind reading, but it's simply the result of years of pattern tracking and emotional tuning. If you lie, they'll know. If you hide something, they'll sense it before you finish the sentence. They won't always confront you immediately. Sometimes, they'll just watch. And wait. This doesn't make them paranoid, it makes them precise. In a Scorpio goat marriage, you must be ready for emotional transparency. Not because they demand perfection, but because they thrive on truth. Pretending is poison. Honesty, even when it's messy, is your safest bet. And if you think you can manipulate or gaslight them, good luck. Their emotional radar is so refined, it can slice through the thickest fog. They might not say it out loud, but the moment you choose deception, they begin mentally packing their bags, even if it takes them years to physically leave. Sex, a sacred fire. For the Scorpio goat, sex is never a transaction, it's a communion. It's where their soul meets yours in the dark and says, I see you. This isn't casual. This isn't recreational. It's intimate alchemy. Scorpio brings the heat, the mystery, the primal intensity. The goat softens the edges with sensuality, emotional awareness, and a need for tenderness that turns every encounter into something timeless. Together, these energies create lovers who don't just make love, they craft experiences that linger in the bloodstream for days. Every sexual moment with them feels intentional. They'll never just kiss you. It'll be the kind of kiss that asks a question, gives an answer, and plants a memory. Their hands don't just touch, they listen. Their desire isn't fueled by lust alone, it's fused with meaning, connection, and silent understanding. Even in the heat of passion, there's a pulse of reverence running underneath. Sex, to the Scorpio goat, is sacred, and anyone who treats it like a game is disqualified before the first move. Emotional intimacy is the precursor to passion. What many don't realize is that for a Scorpio goat, emotional connection is the gatekeeper to physical intimacy. You can't just show up physically, they need to feel you first. They want to know what haunts you, what heals you, what memories live in your shoulders, and what stories are buried beneath your skin. Until they trust your energy, your body remains a map they refuse to explore. This means foreplay begins long before the bedroom. It's in the way you speak to them when you're tired, how you touch their hand when you think no one's watching, how safe they feel when they cry in front of you. These emotional moments are foreplay to a Scorpio goat. If they feel nurtured, protected, and understood, the fire between you doesn't just light, it roars. And when that trust is built, you'll discover that they're not just lovers. They're guides into the most sensitive corners of your own pleasure. They'll teach you how to slow down, how to feel again, how to remember that intimacy is not a performance, it's a sacred exchange. Exploration without shame, and boundaries without fear. One of the most powerful aspects of the Scorpio goat's sexual energy is their ability to create a judgment-free space for exploration. They want to know what makes you tremble, what scares you, what fantasies you've never dared speak aloud. And they'll invite those truths with an open mind and a curious heart, not with expectation, but with reverence. They're not afraid to push boundaries, but only with deep respect. They read consent like poetry. If you flinch, they stop. If you open, they follow. There's no rush. There's no pressure. There's only presence. And if you come with wounds, with shame, with scars from a past that taught you to fear your own body, they don't shrink away. They lean in. They believe that healing is possible through connection, and that the body is one of the most powerful places to begin. Their approach to sex is more than physical, it's holistic. A Scorpio-Goat lover doesn't just undress you, they unburden you. The cold fire of betrayal and emotional withdrawal. But just as their passion can be transcendent, their reaction to broken trust can be emotionally freezing. When the sacredness of sex is violated, whether through lies, manipulation, or emotional inconsistency, they don't rage. They withdraw. The fire doesn't explode, it dies silently, without warning. You might still share a bed. You might still go through the motions. But the warmth? The electricity? The soul-to-soul connection? Gone. Scorpio-Goats don't use sex as revenge, but they do weaponize absence. And because their intimacy is rooted in such deep trust, the loss of it can feel like an emotional exile, not just for them, but for you. Rebuilding that connection is possible, but only if you come with radical honesty, accountability, and patience. They'll need to know you see the damage, that you honor the wound. Only then might they relight the flame. Because to them, sex is not casual, it's a mirror. And if that mirror shatters, it takes more than apologies to reassemble the reflection. Friendship. Selective but eternal. To befriend a Scorpio-Goat is to earn access to a vault, sealed tight, protected fiercely, and filled with rare treasures. They don't hand out the title of friend lightly, and they certainly don't chase after popularity or social approval. Their approach to friendship is careful, deliberate, and deeply intuitive. They read people the way some read poetry, slowly, quietly, between the lines. That's why they often appear distant or mysterious when you first meet them. They're not shy, they're assessing. This selectiveness isn't arrogance, it's emotional self-preservation. Scorpio-Goats have rich inner lives and deep emotional bandwidth, and they won't waste that energy on people who don't reciprocate with depth, loyalty, and realness. If you're dishonest, superficial, or just here for a good time, you'll never get past the surface. But if you're honest, sincere, and grounded in integrity, you might just find yourself chosen. And being chosen by them isn't casual, it's forever. A bond built on loyalty, not convenience. Friendship with a Scorpio-Goat doesn't operate on social currency or convenience. They don't care how often you hang out, whether you're part of the same scene, or how many mutuals you have. What they do care about is how you show up, emotionally, energetically, and especially when it matters most. They are the friends who remember what you said when you were drunk at 2 a.m. and follow up about it 6 months later. The ones who'll text you out of the blue just because they sensed something felt off. If you're in crisis, they won't just offer support, they'll quietly reorganize their life to be there. No parade, no performance, just presence. But they expect that loyalty to flow both ways. Forget their birthday? Fine. Talk behind their back? Fatal. One betrayal, even subtle, can lead to an emotional shutdown so complete, you might not even realize they've walked away until it's been months of silence. They won't scream, won't argue, they'll just vanish. Quietly, completely. Emotional depth over social surface. If you want to be friends with a Scorpio-Goat, prepare to go deep. They're not interested in friendship that lives at the surface. They crave connection that feels like a soul contract. You'll talk about childhood wounds, philosophical dilemmas, dreams that scare you, and fears you've never told anyone. And it won't be forced, it will feel like the most natural thing in the world. They love quiet, one-on-one conversations that stretch for hours. Late night walks. Deep, unfiltered talks in the kitchen. They remember the music you said you liked in passing, the story you told with hesitation, the emotion you tried to hide behind a laugh. That's where they live, in the subtext, in the unspoken, in the real. Small talk bores them. Group chats drain them. Parties can be tolerable, but they'll be the one in the corner having a life-altering conversation with someone while the crowd dances. If you can't meet them in that emotional space, the friendship will fade, not out of conflict, but out of disconnection. Quiet guardianship and the long game of trust. A Scorpio-Goat doesn't shout their loyalty from rooftops. They show it through consistent, invisible acts of protection. You may never know the full extent of how many times they defended your name, advocated for you, or chose you in conversations you weren't there to hear. But they did, because that's what friendship means to them, not just connection, but guardianship. They will hold your secrets like relics. They'll help you build your dreams brick by brick, cheering in quiet but powerful ways. And even if you drift apart for a while, they'll remember everything about you. Your favorite scent, your worst heartbreak, that one sentence you said that changed the way they saw the world. But all of this hinges on trust. That's the golden thread. Lose it, and the entire tapestry begins to unravel. Not all at once, but silently, surely. Rebuilding it is possible, but only through action, not words. To a Scorpio goat, friendship isn't about always being perfect. It's about being real. And once they see that in you, they'll stand beside you longer than anyone else ever has. Business career. Passion meets persistence. Scorpio goats approach their careers with the intensity of a warrior and the precision of a sculptor. For them, work isn't just about making a living, it's about building something that matters. Whether it's a brand, a business, a legacy, or a creative body of work, they bring soul-level purpose to everything they touch. They don't just want success, they want meaningful success. The kind that leaves a dent in the universe and makes people say, that couldn't have existed without them. They see opportunity in places others miss. That's the Scorpio intuition at work. But they don't rely on gut alone, they use the goat's grounded persistence to map, plan, and perfect. Every vision is dissected into actionable steps. Every risk is studied from multiple angles. When they commit to a goal, they don't sprint, they tunnel. Quietly, unstoppably. And when they arrive at the finish line, no one ever sees it coming. Intuitive strategists with a relentless work ethic. What sets Scorpio goats apart in the professional world is their dual nature. They think like empaths but execute like engineers. Their Scorpio side gives them a natural talent for psychological insight. They can walk into a boardroom and sense power dynamics before anyone speaks. Their goat side? That's where the magic happens. That's the part that turns instinct into infrastructure. They're long-game thinkers. They'll patiently learn every layer of a system, quietly master it, and then outmaneuver everyone who underestimated them. They thrive in roles where vision and detail matter equally. Think creative director meets systems analyst. And while they may not be loud in meetings, their ideas tend to reshape everything after they leave the room. They have no patience for laziness, performative leadership, or corporate fluff. They work deeply, move deliberately, and expect the same level of integrity from those around them. If they're on your team, you're lucky. If they're your competition, start preparing now. Independent operators and silent leaders. Structure matters to a Scorpio goat, but only when it respects their intelligence. They don't like micromanagement. They don't respond to ego-driven bosses. They do thrive under leaders who are competent, emotionally intelligent, and purpose-driven. But truthfully, they prefer to run their own show. They make exceptional entrepreneurs, consultants, and creators because they're able to juggle both vision and execution. They'll build their empire in the shadows if they have to. No launch party, no social media bragging, just consistent results, steady growth, and a reputation that builds itself through whispers and word of mouth. As leaders, they don't dominate with charisma, they lead by presence. Quiet, consistent, grounded. They elevate their teams not through hype but through real mentorship, clear boundaries, and deeply personalized support. They know your strengths, your fears, and how to push you without breaking you. And when their projects win awards or get recognized, they credit the work, not their ego. Legacy over spotlight, purpose over profit. Perhaps the most defining trait of a Scorpio goat in business is their motivation. They don't chase titles, trends, or applause. They're not here for vanity metrics or temporary wins. They're here to build something real. A product that changes lives. A company with soul. A system that endures. They see money as a tool, not a goal. Fame as a distraction, not a prize. Their currency is impact, measured in transformation, loyalty, and legacy. That's why they're drawn to careers where they can create emotional or intellectual value. Coaching, therapy, design, writing, innovation, sustainability, social entrepreneurship, or any role that calls for precision and heart. And while others burn out chasing fast success, Scorpio goats move like ancient architects, slow, steady, intentional. They're the ones still standing when the hype dies down. Not because they were the loudest, but because they were the most committed. Give them time, space, and a mission worth bleeding for, and they'll give the world something that lasts generations. Dark sides. The storm beneath the calm. Beneath the composed exterior of a Scorpio-Goat lies an emotional pressure system, quiet, contained, but capable of seismic eruptions. They are masters of self-control on the outside, yet on the inside, they feel everything with such intensity that it can border on overwhelming. And when that emotional buildup isn't released or processed, it doesn't vanish, it sharpens, it hardens, it simmers in silence until it either transforms into wisdom, or strikes like lightning. Their dark side isn't always visible at first. They're too smart, too composed, too dignified to lash out recklessly. But make no mistake, their silence doesn't equal peace. In fact, with Scorpio goats, the quieter they get, the more dangerous the emotional terrain becomes. That stillness? It's the eye of the storm. And if you've crossed a line, especially one they never verbalized but deeply expected you to honor, you'll know. Not through yelling, not through drama, but through detachment so absolute, it can feel like a spiritual exile. Emotional control masquerading as stability. One of the core challenges for Scorpio goats is their deep fear of emotional exposure. Vulnerability, to them, is sacred and risky. Because of this, they often try to preempt emotional pain by controlling their environment, their routines, and sometimes, the people they love. Not always maliciously. Often, it's subconscious. But the result is the same. They may micromanage, withdraw, manipulate through silence, or hold others to impossible emotional standards, all in an effort to avoid feeling powerless. They're not comfortable being messy, or needy, or out of control. So instead, they build emotional architecture around themselves. Routines, rituals, boundaries that make them feel safe. But if something or someone threatens that sense of order, especially someone close to them, they can become cold, suspicious, even accusatory. Not because they don't love you, but because they don't trust how much they love you. Because love, to them, is the one thing that can truly destroy them, and they know it. Perfectionism turned inward and outward. Scorpio goats expect a lot from themselves. They carry a quiet, constant pressure to be excellent, to be dependable, to be better. This internal drive can fuel their success, but it can also become a prison. They often hold themselves to such unrealistic standards that even the smallest mistake feels like failure. And because they're so hard on themselves, they unconsciously project that same intensity onto others. If you disappoint them, even once, they may not say it out loud. But they feel it, and that disappointment can calcify into resentment. They struggle with forgiveness, not because they're petty, but because they remember in high definition. Emotional betrayals are stored like archived footage, played back again and again in their mind, especially in moments of stress. And over time, their unmet expectations, both of themselves and of others, can lead to a heavy kind of bitterness. A quiet cynicism they wear like armor. Jealousy, grudges, and the memory that never fades. Jealousy for the Scorpio goat doesn't always look like rage or possessiveness. Often, it looks like withdrawal, like icy politeness, like subtle but unmistakable distance. They may not even realize how envious they are until the damage is done, until their friend's success or their partner's attention elsewhere starts to feel like a personal betrayal. This emotional reflex is deeply tied to their need for loyalty and control. If they sense that someone they love is pulling away, choosing someone else, or simply not prioritizing them, they may spiral inward, obsessing over what went wrong, what they did to deserve it, or how they can reclaim that connection. And if the connection truly breaks, they don't just mourn, they record. Every slight, every lie, every cold word, it gets filed away. Forever. They may say they forgive. They may even want to forgive. But forgetting? Impossible. Their memory is their defense system, and they trust it more than they trust people. It protects them, even when it keeps them isolated. Because to a Scorpio goat, pain is always a teacher, and they never stop taking notes. Life goals, soulful mastery. A Scorpio goat doesn't just want to live, they want to understand life. To master it, not in the traditional sense of wealth or fame, but in the soul-deep, spiritually rooted sense of fulfillment. They're not content with ticking off societal milestones or chasing shallow wins. What drives them is depth, purpose, A relentless desire to unravel the meaning behind everything, why we love, why we suffer, why we're here at all. They don't just exist in the world, they investigate it, spiritually and psychologically, from the inside out. Their goals are rarely loud or obvious. You might not even know they have one until a decade later, when they unveil a passion project so rich, so perfectly crafted, that it takes your breath away. Whether it's a quietly built business, a manuscript tucked away in a drawer, or a lifelong mentorship with someone they believe in, Scorpio-Goats don't seek applause, they seek alignment. They are sculptors of the unseen, artisans of the inner life, constantly refining their purpose while the world rushes past them in a blur. Purpose before prestige, substance before speed. You won't catch a Scorpio-Goat chasing after trends or copying someone else's formula for success. If it doesn't align with their soul, it's not worth pursuing. They crave substance, a life filled with experiences that feed their spirit, challenge their intellect, and deepen their emotional awareness. That's why they often choose unconventional paths. They're not interested in success that's measured by external metrics. They measure it internally, by how aligned they feel, by how much impact their work has on others, and by whether they're becoming more of who they truly are. That's also why their journey can be slow, methodical, even invisible for years, but underneath the surface, they're building, reading, planning, evolving. They're not afraid of solitude, and they don't need public validation to keep going. Because they know, the real goal isn't to impress the world, it's to transform it. Quietly, soulfully, permanently. Inner peace is the pinnacle of success. At the core of all their ambition lies one sacred goal: peace. Not the kind that comes from material comfort, but the deep, quiet kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing exactly what your spirit was built for. Scorpio-Goats understand that all external success is hollow without inner alignment. That's why they work so hard on themselves, healing, reflecting, refining. Their life may be full of external accomplishments, but their greatest masterpiece is always internal: self-knowledge. Emotional regulation. A spiritual calm that can't be shaken by other people's chaos. They might meditate in secret, journal religiously, or build entire careers around emotional and psychological growth. For them, mastery of the self isn't a bonus, it's the mission. And when they achieve that sense of internal harmony, they become magnetic forces. Leaders, healers, creators of environments that feel safe, intentional, and deeply transformative. Their peace becomes contagious. Their calm becomes a lighthouse. Legacy that lives beyond them. The Scorpio-Goat doesn't want to just live a meaningful life, they want to leave one behind. Legacy isn't a word they throw around lightly. To them, it means creating something that still resonates long after they're gone. A piece of writing, a child raised with wisdom, a business built with integrity, a community impacted by their presence, even if their name is never remembered. They think in timelines that stretch beyond the present moment. They're not just building for today, they're building for generations. That's why their choices often seem quiet or understated in the moment, but echo louder and louder as time goes on. They don't plant seeds for attention. They plant them for roots. Whether it's through mentorship, creative work, activism, or deep relationships, they're always pouring something of themselves into the future. Not because they need recognition, but because they believe in leaving the world better than they found it. That belief is their compass. That's what drives every decision, every sacrifice, every chapter of their quietly powerful life. Because in the end, the Scorpio-Goat doesn't just want to master life, they want to mean something in it. And they will, even if it takes a lifetime. Final thought. A Scorpio born in the year of the goat is the kind of person who lives between worlds, the emotional and the intellectual, the seen and the unseen, the fierce and the tender. They are walking duality, a living contradiction that somehow makes perfect sense. You can't fully explain them, and honestly, you're not supposed to. They weren't made to be understood at first glance, they were made to be experienced. Slowly, deeply, with reverence. They may not command rooms with volume, but they transform them with presence. There's an undeniable gravity to them, like they carry entire oceans behind their eyes. They're not the ones chasing attention, but the ones you find yourself watching anyway. It's that Scorpio magnetism and Goat grace, woven so seamlessly, you don't know whether to be in awe or at ease, and that's exactly their superpower. They challenge you to go deeper. Spend enough time with a Scorpio Goat, and you'll start noticing things in yourself, questions you've never asked, truths you've never spoken, dreams you forgot you had. That's the quiet magic of their energy. They don't force change, they invite it. By simply being who they are, introspective, emotionally intelligent, deeply authentic, they give you silent permission to explore your own depths. But be warned, they don't do shallow relationships, performative connections, or half-hearted effort. If you step into their world, you better bring your whole self. They want real, raw, rooted, and if that intimidates you, good. It means you're paying attention. Because Scorpio Goats weren't built to play small. They were built to pull you into something bigger, emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes, even cosmically. Not for everyone, but everything to the right few. Let's be clear, not everyone can handle a Scorpio Goat. And that's the point. They're not trying to fit into your world, they're quietly building their own. If you're just here for the surface, the easy, the now, you won't last. But if you're someone who values loyalty over convenience, connection over chatter, soul over style, you'll feel like you've come home. To be loved by them is to be studied, known, and held in ways most people never experience. To be trusted by them is even rarer. They don't hand out access freely. But once they decide you're worth the risk, you're woven into their life with invisible thread. Protected, remembered, forever part of their private constellation of people who matter. And if you ever hurt them? Well, let's just say, they won't throw a scene. They'll simply leave your life so gracefully, so finally, that you'll wonder if they were real at all. They are the rare quiet flame that never goes out. In a loud world obsessed with immediacy, Scorpio Goats burn slow. They take their time to build trust, to chase purpose, to choose love, but once they do, their presence becomes a steady fire that warms everything it touches. They're not here to dazzle for a moment. They're here to anchor you for a lifetime. They don't arrive with fanfare. They arrive with depth, with intention, with a look that says, I see you, and I won't look away. And if you're lucky enough to earn their gaze, their trust, their heart, you've been chosen by one of life's rarest energies, someone who is as complex as the cosmos, and just as worth exploring. If this energy reminds you of someone, or if you see yourself in this, don't scroll away. Drop a comment below, like the video, subscribe for more insight into zodiac archetypes that are anything but ordinary. And don't forget to check the links in the description for tools, guides, and exclusive bonus content. Because people like this don't come around often, and when they do, they change you. Quietly, completely, forever.